Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Beth. Today we are going to recap what I read in August, and y'all, I did some reading. It helped that my birthday was in August and I took a few days off, so I got a little bit more book time, and we're going to talk about it. So this is the spread that I set up for the beginning of the month. Came into the month reading Nettle and Bone. I did finish Nettle and Bone, but we're going to talk about it last because I finished it last. I sat down the last day of August and said, you are going to finish this book. So I did. There is a line through Indistractable. This was the bullet journal book club pick for this quarter, and I DNF'd it because there's something about Nir Eyal's tone that I find incredibly condescending. And it's not just in his writing. I tried to watch a video or two, and to me, personally, it comes across condescending in his interviews and stuff as well. It was just a tone that I didn't have the patience for, at least not in this particular time in my life. I don't know. I might revisit it one day. I made it about a third of the way through. Look, you see my tabs? About a third of the way through. I'm gonna keep it, but I still think it's a hard DNF. We'll see how long I keep it. Get that out of the way. And talk about the more interesting books. And it's gonna seem like I'm handing out 5-star reviews like they are candy. Maybe it was just the fact that I found myself in a better mood in August between things just looking up and up from the depression that I've been in, and then having time with family and friends because of my birthday. Maybe I was just in a good mood. I don't know. I read on audio Harrow the Ninth, which is the second book in this series. I read Gideon the Ninth last month. Gave it 5 stars. Also gave Harrow the Ninth 5 stars. Again, Harrow the Ninth is the sequel to Gideon the Ninth. It turns a galaxy inside out as one necromancer struggles to survive the wreckage of herself aboard the Emperor's haunted space station. The novel weaves an intricate web of unreliable memories, fractured identities, and cosmic horror, leaving readers both dazzled and disoriented. Now, when I read Gideon the Ninth, we're going to bring it back. I said that, oh, you can see my filming equipment in the shine. I said that I had heard it was wackadoodle and that you might not know what's going on for most of the novel. And I understood everything, so I was worried about my brain. Because, yes, it was wackadoodle, but I knew where we were going. I did not feel that way with Harrow the Ninth. Harrow the Ninth goes so far off the reservation that it took me about a third of the way through. My brain said, I think this is the thing that's happening. And then I talked myself out of it. But it turns out that yes, that's the thing that was happening. So my brain still got it. But I spent over half the novel confused. And I've recommended it to a coworker who's very much about the analytical side of things. And I was like, look, if you're going to read these books, you're going to have to suspend your disbelief and just let the river take you where the water wants to take you, because you just have to go along for the ride and know that you're gonna eventually end up somewhere that makes sense. 5 stars. And partially the 5-star rating comes from somebody doing something with storytelling that I've never experienced before. And it's done well. You can do something that I've never experienced before and be totally shit at it. But this was done really, really well. Both of them. But yes, Harrow the Ninth is a little bit more wackadoodle than Gideon the Ninth was. I have started Nona the Ninth. So my September read right now, I'm in Nona the Ninth. Okay, still trying to get some classics knocked out for the year. I'm supposed to read 6 of them this year, and coming into last month, I hadn't read any. And so, because I have it, this is The Prince and Other Writings. I did not read the other writings. I did read The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli's The Prince is a political treatise that offers pragmatic, sometimes ruthless advice, or misogynistic advice, on how rulers should gain and maintain power. Through its exploration of neopolitik, the book remains a foundational text in understanding the complexities of political leadership. Now, I do love this edition. Isn't it pretty? It's beautiful. We're still going to get it out of the way because I should be on my pages here. So there's Harrow the Ninth. Here is The Prince. I do wish I had just put this on one page because I have another classic coming and I wish I had put it on one page because I'm running out of pages. However, what was astonishing to me is how much of this rhetoric and these philosophies have carried over into modern day democracy. It's just baffling. That's all I'm gonna say. It lives on in perpetuity until we change it. Because while this was directed towards monarchs, Caesars, those types of individuals, there is many an American president who clearly has lived by these philosophies. Yeah, it was a thing that I read. I will probably never read it again, but I did give it 3 stars for what it is and for its enduring legacy because it has stuck around. All right, after The Prince, like I said, I read another classic, and that was The Curious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde delves into the duality of human nature through the story of a man who battles his darker self. The novella masterfully explores themes of identity, morality, and the hidden evils lurking within us all. Now, what I can say about Jekyll and Hyde is that, and I'm still astonished that I hadn't read this yet, is that it's so embedded into pop culture. The characters pop up in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. They pop up everywhere. And I thought I knew the story of Jekyll and Hyde. And of course I knew Dr. Jekyll and I knew Mr. Hyde and I knew how that happens betwixt the two. I don't think it's any secret to humanity that this is one individual that has, changed himself from one to the other. But in reading the story, the first introduction we have is not to Dr. Jekyll, the older, much beloved gentleman. The person we're introduced first is Mr. Hyde, who is a truly despicable human being, monster, whatever you want to call him. Appears to be human, but definitely has very little humanity in his bones. And that was, I guess, the thing that surprised me the most, is that's where Stevenson chose to start the story. But it makes sense because it has more intrigue in it, and who is this horrible individual? The law is looking for him at some point, and of course they can't find him because he's then Dr. Jekyll. But then we get to meet Dr. Jekyll and see Dr. Jekyll start to lose himself in Hyde. A lot of it has to do with vanity, because Hyde is younger than Dr. Jekyll. I gave it 3 stars, and I'm thinking I might need to up it, because I also gave The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells 3 stars last month. And either that or I need to reduce this one to 2. Maybe I'll reduce this one to 2 because it's still not sitting well with me. And it has sort of the same premise. You're talking about a doctor manipulating biology. This one came out 10 years before this one. And it's better, for sure. It's still disturbing on a lot of different levels. It's shorter. I don't know. Glad I finally read it so that I can say that I've read it and that I understand it, and that, like I said, the record has been set straight from what's in my head from pop culture to the actual words on the page. I did do it on audio, which was narrated by Richard Armitage, which is never a bad thing because Richard Armitage. So if you can get your hands on a copy of the audiobook that's narrated by Richard Armitage, I highly recommend it. Okay, moving on. And I'm still in my sci-fi era, my people. And now I have committed myself to the biggest tomes and the longest series I possibly could. And that is The Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. Leviathan Wakes, the first book in the Expanse series, kicks off an epic space opera filled with political intrigue, interstellar war, and a terrifying alien threat. As a single crew uncovers a conspiracy that could doom humanity, the novel combines gritty realism with a fast-paced, edge-of-your-seat narrative. If you don't know, James S.A. Corey is the pseudonym for two people that co-write these together. If you've been here for a minute, you may remember that in April 2023, when I did a book crawl on Independent Bookstore Day, I found books 2, 3, and 4, and I've never been able to find book 1. I managed to get it on sale for like $11, and I was like, okay, here we go. We're in our sci-fi era. I think I've read more sci-fi than anything else this year, and we're just gonna go ahead and do this. Now, I had started watching the television show when it first came on because I've always been a sci-fi junkie, and I made it about 4 or 5 episodes in before I found out it was a book series, and I immediately stopped watching the show because I was obsessed with it. And the book did not let me down. It did not let me down at all. If you've watched the television show, then you know. But what I love most about this series, at least book 1, thus far, is that the utopian ideals of Star Trek are completely gone. So like in Star Trek, and I love Star Trek, like in Star Trek, humanity's united. There's no hunger. Nobody's in poverty. We're going out into the stars and we're meeting all of these different aliens, and we have some battles with the aliens, but humanity's managed to resolve its conflicts, and we are a single united species. In the Expanse books, we have colonized our galaxy. We've made it to Mars. We're terraforming Mars. We've made it out to an area called the Belt between Jupiter and Saturn, where a lot of mining takes place. We've been there long enough that generations have been raised in the Belt. There are certain ideals, like in the very beginning, there is a ship that is a water ship. We send ships to the rings of Saturn to get water and spread it around the colonies of space. And it's sort of just an understood thing that those ships are precious. And this whole thing kicks off with one of those ships being blown up. There's conflict between Earth and Mars. There's conflict between Mars and the Belt. We are still so very much the humans that we are now, unable to resolve any of our differences. And at this point in time when this thing starts, there's not an alien in sight. We've managed to colonize our whole galaxy and never bumped into another life form until something happens in this book. But that's the reason that I stopped watching the television show, because I was fascinated by that concept. And it's the reason that I'm finally picking up the book series. How quickly I'll read through them, I don't know, because this one's 600 pages long. They're long. And y'all know I've also started down the Robin Hobb trail as well. And those are also chunky. I don't know. It's like I'm a glutton for punishment this year. I did also give it 5 stars because it absolutely did not disappoint me at all. In fact, I enjoyed it a little bit better because there's things that had already started happening in the television show that haven't even started to happen here. And I know it's because you have to keep interest and keep things moving. And so you gotta create things a little quicker than maybe you do in a book. So there we go. Leviathan Wakes in my sci-fi era. But then I jumped on one of last year's darlings. Let me grab it. I got it from Book of the Month last year, so I've had it a while. It's on my backlist, so now I've gotten to check it off from that. And that's The Adventures of Amina El Serafi, which follows a retired pirate lured back into the world of danger and magic to rescue a kidnapped girl, promising one last thrilling adventure. As Amina uncovers the dark secrets behind the mission, she realizes that the quest for glory might cost her more than she ever imagined. Again, 5 stars. And I just loved it. So I wrote 3 cheers for Amina El Serafi. 1, an older female protagonist. 2, folklore of the Middle East. And 3, the Indian Ocean setting. So there were a lot of references because I was raised in Kenya, which is on the east coast of Africa and is on the Indian Ocean. There were a lot of references to a lot of places that I know. And so I was very connected to that. I also really loved the folklore that is in this story. What I found in Amina El Serafi was what I wanted to find in The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, which I read earlier in the year and didn't find. It began to fail really quickly for me. It was middle of the road. It was a good read. It wasn't a great read. But what that was lacking, I found in here. It was rich and it was vibrant and I loved it. When it comes to fantasy, I'm really gravitating to books that ride the line between fantasy and folklore or fantasy and fairy tale. Like, it's a very fine line there. They bleed into one another. It's not fantasy a la Lord of the Rings. It has this folklore element to it. And I really enjoyed that. I really loved it. And to that end, and again, if you've been here a while, you may know that I started Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies in, I don't know, February 2023, March 2023. And then I just got distracted by other things. I just put it down. I got distracted by other things. I've even bought the second one. I have Map of the Otherland, but I had never finished Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Now, I bought this book, 1, because it's beautiful, and 2, because I expected it to be exactly what it advertises itself to be, and that's exactly what it does. So in this charming fantasy, curmudgeonly Professor Emily Wilde travels to a remote village to study fairy folklore, only to stumble upon dark fae magic and unexpected friendships. As she uncovers the mysteries of the Hidden Ones, Emily must also confront her feelings for her infuriating academic rival Wendell Bamblebee and the secrets he harbors. I loved this book, again, specifically because it was exactly what this advertises itself to be. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I took off the half. And this shouldn't be a spoiler considering it's Encyclopedia of Fairies. At some point, Emily does find herself in the world of the Fae. And I found the world of the Fae just a little lackluster. It was, oh, we're now in the world of the Fae, here there be magic. And it solved all the problems, or created all the problems. There was no intricacies to that specific part of the world of the Fae. I don't know, I just found that little piece, and it's not a very big piece, lacking for me. So I took off a 0.5 star. But other than that, I really enjoyed this book. It is cozy, like everybody says it is. It is enjoyable for that reason, and while it is cozy, it does have some dark moments. I wrote that kind of in here. And I very much appreciated that it had a little bit of darkness to it. And again, it's that line between fantasy and folklore, which I appreciated. So let's just, go to the next one that's on the line between fantasy and folklore. Here's Nettle and Bone. In Nettle and Bone, Mara, a timid third-born princess, takes matters into her own hands to save her sister from an abusive prince. Alongside an unlikely crew, a grave witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a former knight, and a demon-possessed chicken, and a bone dog, Mara embarks on a quest to bring down the tyrannical prince and free her family from his grip. It's short, and I pretty much had to go back and start it over, so I read it in a day. But it's only 240 pages, so yeah, it's not long. I wrote T. Kingfisher really is my favorite when it comes to a fairy tale. She just is. I've been hoarding What Feasts at Night for spooky season because I loved What Moves the Dead last year. So I've had the sequel since it came out in, February? And I'm hoarding it for spooky season, so that's going to come along either in late September or early October. I don't know how much longer I can wait. I thought this was super fun. I also gave it 4.5 stars. I love the mix of quirky characters. The demon chicken, which has a personality all its own. The bone dog, which has a personality all its own. It's a quest, and it's a found family band put together to solve the quest, and it was just delightful. And it's short, 240 pages, and I highly recommend it. I just thought it was great. I love this quote down here. It says, "Dogs have human names. It's what keeps them from being wolves." What if we gave them wolf names? Would our dogs turn into wolf? I just loved that one so much. And then just flipping back a little bit, I went too far. Our Grimm Brothers fairy tale for the month was The Sea Hare. Quick summary, there's a proud princess who declares she will only marry a suitor who can successfully hide from her 3 times, threatening death to those who fail. A young man, aided by 3 magical transformations, including turning into a sea hare, manages to outwit the princess each time. Despite her magical powers, the princess is unable to find him, and in the end, she is forced to marry him as promised. The tale explores themes of cleverness, the power of magic, and of course, the consequences of arrogance. And I wrote, of course the dude outwits the princess, because why wouldn't he? I mean, timing. It is a certain time, it is a certain age. Most of the time the princess did not come out on top when it came to these sorts of things, lest we forget the idiocy that was Rapunzel. I promised that we were going to do 2 stories of princesses in towers or castles, and of course this one has, the 12 windows that she looks out of. But that's all I wrote. I didn't go any deeper than that, other than to talk about the consequences of arrogance. And then, of course, the dude outwits the princess, because it's a Grimm fairy tale. Alright. We are going to jump back here. I don't know what this black spot is. It's just going to live there. And set up for the month. I'm going to alternate these 2 washi tapes, because they're those washi tape rolls that have very limited amounts on it, and I just don't know if I'll make it all the way with one of them. And I'm sure it probably would have been fine. But yeah, let me know if you read... Oh, that's going to be too small. Let me know if you read The Sea Hare and what you thought of it, if you'd ever read it before. I am enjoying our Grimm read-along. I think I have a plan for 2025. And of course, I try to keep these open source. So, last year was Edgar Allan Poe, because all of his stuff is in the public domain. Grimm fairy tales are in the public domain. If you want to read along, you can do so without any kind of a purchase. So we'll see if my plans for 2025 come to fruition. All right. Then a little bit more blue, and we'll have to trim it off. That's good enough. It's not perfectly straight, but that is a-okay. Well, at least I know that washi tape is sticky. I couldn't get it off my finger. I've been very guilty of using very old washi tape that doesn't want to stay down. At least we know this one is sticking. So next up, we're going to have a Grimm fairy tale that is, again, more well known. So if y'all have any recommendations of Grimm fairy tales that you know and that you don't necessarily hear about often, so that is one of the lesser known ones, let me know down in the comments if you would like us to read it. It was fun when we did the Bremen Town Musicians And all the Germans piped in and were like, nope, know that one. Because the town of Bremen is there and they're very familiar with that tale. So if there's one that you know, share it in the comments. And we've got 3 more months to get a few more reads in. Alright, and I chose blue and gold for a reason. And that's because it is time for us to visit with good old Cinderella. I've read Cinderella. It's been a really, 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 really long time. It's not like last month where I really don't think I had ever read the original Sleeping Beauty. It brought a lot of pop culture into context because the musical Into the Woods had taken so much from the actual Grimm fairy tale, and I should have known that's where it came from. I chose a blue. This is like the 3rd or 4th blue, I think, that we have used. But I'm just going to put... Oop, and it's drying up. Hang on, slow down. Reading. I don't think I'll have another month where I read 7 books in a month. Like I said, because I took a few days off for my birthday, I had time to just read. Oh, I still need that down here. And then we will put Cinderella. Okay, and there we go. We're just going to ignore this splooshy sploosh. I must have put my hand in ink or something and then... I don't know, but that's a blank page partway through my notebook. Now, as I said, I am going to run out of pages. I've counted. So if I keep pace with my reading goals, and we'll look at that page here in a second. Let me write in Cinderella on our Grimm card. I've updated my index. I don't feel the need to show you. But if I read all 18 of these books and keep pace, I only have like 14 more pages left. And I'm going to need an October, November, December cover page, like I just did the Cinderella cover page, unless I double up books. I do take my quotes. Sometimes I'm really behind in getting it done, but I do like to take my quotes and put them in Notion and attach a theme to them so I can search for quotes. I just like to keep quotes. I've always been a quote girly. So I might have to consolidate and just put my review and not necessarily put my favorite quotes in here, or I'm going to have to tip in some pages. And I thought that that might be the case coming into this year if I kept pace, but I have done better keeping up with my reading goal than I really thought I was going to. So, I mean, yay me, right? I do still need to sneak in 2 memoirs if I'm going to reach all my goals. I need 2 more classics. I need 18 more reads before December 31st. And then my backlist, I have gotten to fill in Amina Serafi, and I've gotten to fill in Nettle and Bone and add that to Stardust Thief. Like I said, this one's better than that one. And Bookshop of Yesterdays, which was a DNF. I mean, like, it's been on my TBR for, I don't know, 8 years, 6 years, something like that. And it was just awful. My series tracker, I have filled. So if I need to add more to it, I'm going to have to tip in something. Just a reminder that this blocked out section is something that I started that's also a Christmas present. I don't want the person to know that I have it. So y'all will see the year-end flip through. I have Locked Tomb in here, which is Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth. So I've added those 2. I added Amina Serafi because it's supposed to be a trilogy. And I've added in this crazy embarking into the Expanse. I actually did start Ship of Magic in August, but then I had a library hold on Leviathan Wakes from the Expanse as well, and sometimes I like to hybrid read. I don't want to spend money on the book twice. And I was doing Ship of Magic. I was actually confused, and I think I need to go back to the beginning anyway when my hold for Leviathan Wakes came through for the library, so I flip-flopped because I only have like 12 days or whatever with the Libby app to get that chunky Expanse book read. So I started it, and I need to come back to it. We'll see if I get there this month. And then I think I've added to my book haul. I do have A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Again, holding it for spooky season. I'll probably read it in September. I don't know. We'll see. And then here's my release radar. This is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. which I think was originally supposed to come out on September 10th. It's now coming out in April 2025, so I've moved it to my 2025 TBR. I added Indistractable to my DNF list, and speaking of DNFs, guys, I'm still not feeling it. I don't think I'm going to watch the rest of Grimm. Something ridiculous could happen somewhere along the way. I could get to the holidays and be like, I'm just going to watch this thing, and maybe I will, and maybe I won't. It was a great idea to go along with the Grimm fairy tale reads, but I watched it once, and it's not resonating with me like it did the first time around. I don't know. It just seemed a whole lot more intriguing the first time around. My 5-star faves, I have added Leviathan Wakes. So I only have 4 more spots to add in a favorite book before I have to start my book bracket and pick my favorite for the year. Odds are I'll probably hedge my bets and not pick any more until I have to. That's it. I've written down some of your recommendations. I haven't gotten to them yet, but I've got them written down. My book of the month is still paused. I think I've got it paused through November now. I gotta double check it now that September's here. And then in the back, I have my 2025 TBR. So there's Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Seiyaku Mandana that I've moved to the back. There's my reading tracker. My gold dot marker is dying. That keeps changing color. And then I have book covers already printed back here for books that I kind of wanted to read, and they just live back there forever until I make it to them. That is it for August. I had wanted to film this video 2 days ago. Things happened. It was a holiday weekend. I ended up with plans with multiple people on multiple days that I didn't have going into Friday, and then suddenly I had plans Saturday and Sunday. And sometimes I will tell people that I have something else I need to do when I know I need to get some filming done, and sometimes for the sake of my spirit I say yes to all the invitations. And so I said yes to all the invitations. This got put back a little bit, but here it is. We're gonna read Cinderella for September. If you want to come hang out with us on Patreon and chat about it in the Discord, we'd love to have you over there. Otherwise, if you liked this video, you know what to do. Give it a big thumbs up. Let me know what you read in August down in the comments below in case there's anything there that I want to read too. And I will catch you in the next one.